Okay, Erin, what is your word for the episode?
My word for the episode is truth.
That's a great one. My word for this episode is listening.
Yes,
And the
perfect.
reason why is because this episode is all geared towards Erin's personal health journey. So I'm going to let you kick it off, my love.
All right. Well, thank you, Jess. I'm excited to chat with you about my truth and start peeling back the layers and stripping away the show that we give everybody as the health and fitness professionals that are expected to be on and feeling great and everything's a 10 out of 10 experience. That's just not true. So I'm ready to be completely honest about it in hopes that it encourages you or anyone that comes across this conversation to do the same and stand in their power and stand in their truth.
And maybe to find a little bit of space where you overlap. Because
Yeah,
overlap is that point where you know, oh, I'm not alone. And that can be so powerful when you're going through something transformative to know that you're not alone, that there are other people out there that are going through something similar than what
absolutely.
you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Erin, when was the first time that you thought you were going crazy?
It was right as I turned 41. And I don't really want to say how old I'll be in January, but I said my word was truth. So January 24th, I will be 45. And when I say it out loud, it sounds less scary than when I internalize it. Or when my daughter is like, my mom was born in the 1900s. All right.
So
Yeah, I'm
ancient.
like, it's 81. Okay, I wasn't, traveling by horse and buggy. All right. But yeah, so the first time I felt like I was really losing a grip on who I was as a person, who I was as a parent, who I was as a professional, right as I turned 41. And I had an infant at the time. My son was just a little over about a year and a half. And in my mind, I was like, this is all relatable to having an infant, like having, a toddler and like being in the hustle of parenting very young children. And so I kind of wrote it off. And I don't think I advocated for myself in the way that I would today and standing in my power and saying, this isn't right. I don't feel well. I deserve to feel better. Fix it. Find out what's going on. Run the labs you need to run. Do the things you need to do. And if you don't know how to do that, then you need to get me to somebody who does. I didn't say that 4 years ago. Today, 100% I would demand it. And I think you deserve to, for sure.
Yeah. And so when you started feeling off
Mm-hmm.
and kind of saying it's because I have a newborn, it's life,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
What kind of was that first trigger where you were like, oh, this is not normal?
So, first trigger for me is really so obviously, as a health and fitness professional, I'm committed to working out, all of those things. And I had changed my program because I thought, well, part of it is just like I'm bored of this particular program. So I changed it. And I felt like despite progressive overload, despite like pushing myself to the degree that I always had in the past, I wasn't making progress. And in fact, I felt weaker. And I'm like, this is stupid. I know all these things. I am applying the principles appropriately as I have done for years. And I started to really like tune in a little bit more to like, okay, if that feels off, what are the other signals that I'm ignoring that are in fact off? Sleep was part of it. Just that brain fog kind of feeling of like I didn't have quite the same level of energetic focus that I did a year or two prior. And I started thinking, let me look into this a little bit more. And knowing like it's very common for perimenopausal symptoms to start in the late 30s and run like the gamut of 10 years, I was like, let's just take a look. Yes, I have young children, but I'm also in my 40s. So I started taking a look and I was like, okay, triangulating all the things as scientists do, right? We look into this, we look into that, we like bring it all together, we evaluate the data, it tells a story. And my story, I was like, okay, I'm deducing it down to a couple of things. Yes, part of it has to be related to having young children. Like my son would get up in the middle of it. Like there are those pieces that definitely are a variable, but they weren't necessarily the entire cause. And I was like, I feel like my testosterone could be low. And I had never tested for it before. There was never a need. I didn't have symptoms. I didn't need to test. So I tested for it. And yes, it was low. And that was the first point that after I tested for it, I was like, all right, this can be mitigated. This can be handled. So let's handle it. And so I got a compound and that corrected the issue for a while. But that was really the first trigger is developing that sense of awareness where I was like, it isn't just the fact that I am not progressing. It's that I don't have the same drive to like bounce out of bed. And it had nothing to do with what I was doing career wise or anything like that. It was literally this physical experience that I had started to like really wake up and pay attention to. And I'm like, there's something here. So that I would say is like the very first turning point where I'm like, all right, I guess we have boarded this train, even though I didn't ask for it, but I got my ticket and I'm on the train and now I have to advocate for myself.
Yeah. And that's the thing about this time in someone's life is it's constantly being your own advocate of saying, even if you get minimal tests, I want full extensive tests.
Yeah.
I know that this is different than what it was before. And it's not because I'm sneaking chicken nuggets and goldfish here and there. Like something has changed and let's figure it out and let's figure out what it. And I think your story was so captivating to me because you had symptoms that didn't come up in your typical Instagram perimenopausal post. Like
No,
your symptoms were almost like a different parameter than what we typically think of as like hot flashes, mood swings.
none of that.
And so share with us so that other people, other women going through this can know like what were some of your really chaotic symptoms?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hot flashes are still a mystery to me.
Mm.
I don't have them and I think it's really important to say that it is a journey that every woman goes through, but it looks different for every person. So what I experience is not what Jess is going to experience, and there might be some overlap, but it's not like this specific diagnostic criteria that says this is what this is. So for me, it was those things like not progressing in a workout. It was like weird things with my appetite. Like sometimes just food just felt and I didn't want to eat anything. Or it was literally going to bed and rising at the same time, changing absolutely nothing about my sleep environment, my pre-bedtime routine, my rising routine. And I would feel so unrested despite thinking that I had slept through the night and not really remembering waking up. And it was another piece of that came like the brain fog, right? Like you're kind of tired, but the brain fog didn't also feel like fatigue brain fog. You know what I mean? Like, that night where you don't sleep well and you're just like a zombie the next day. This was something entirely different. And I felt very frenetic in my own mind. And I couldn't quite like focus on specific projects. Like I was kind of torn in these different areas. And that is the antithesis of my personality. I am a type A, like straight A student. I'm going to get the work done. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to show up. And I was not like showing up. At least I didn't feel like I was. So there was that part of it too. And then also just feeling lost and questioning like my enoughness. I feel like for me, imposter syndrome like surged because I was no longer feeling the way I did 3 to 4 years prior. So like I felt like my confidence took a dig and like I was not feeling like I knew any of the things I was trained to know or that had spent 20 years working in the field. And I think that's because looking back now, I think that's because I was feeling so physically ick and I couldn't solve it, right? Like as the health and exercise professional, we think this is a puzzle and we have all the skills and tools and knowledge and abilities to solve said puzzle. But I couldn't do that for myself. And then I started to think, I just don't know anything. And that was really difficult for me because I'm so passionate about our field. There's a reason I've been in it for 20 plus years, right? Just like you. So I think for me, that was kind of the cluster of things I was experiencing. And then I just really took a dig emotionally and anxiety wise because of all those things. I wasn't feeling like myself. I wasn't like having the same level of energy to like be present with my kids and like go and do. And just the littlest task, I'm like, oh, that sounds like such an inconvenience. Like,
I'm not going out of my way for that. No.
I'm not doing that. Like, I do not want to do, and whatever that is, where normally the normal, circle back 5-10 years, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. I was not that person. And so then I started getting really down on myself. Like, what is wrong with me? And that is the wrong language to use with yourself, people. There is nothing wrong with you. It's simply a shift in your physiology. It's a shift in your mental perspective on things. Like I said in the first episode, I'm really over devoting energy to things I hate. And you start to get clear on what you will and won't tolerate. But speaking to yourself and asking yourself, like, what's wrong with me? I don't know what's wrong with me, is not going to help you navigate this journey. And if I could go back, I would speak kinder to myself and leave myself the grace and space to navigate something that is confusing.
I love that point so much because I think a lot of time in any age and stage of womanhood, we're constantly asking ourselves what we did wrong or
Yes.
what is wrong with us.
What is that?
Right? We see it in adolescence, and then you see it when you hit college age, and then when you're pregnant, man, that's all. Right? And then newborn phase, like we're constantly thinking that things that are occurring to our bodies or around us are our faults. And it's not. Instead of looking at this as like, this is an evolution, this is a level up. This is where you get to, if you're a video game player, this is where your tool belt gets to expand and you get new weapons, right? We never look at it that way. We just constantly are like, what's wrong with me? Instead of being like, oh my God, I wonder what cool new ability I'm about to get.
Like, it's like the Pokemon characters, right? Like they all evolve. This is really no different, except we don't really have really cool names like Pikachu. And we should, that's what we're going to do in an episode. If we were Pokemon characters, Jess's name would be this and Erin's name would be this.
We're going to think about it, man, and come up with it. And we got to come up with our evolution names. So if you don't know what Pokemon are, you probably shouldn't be listening to this podcast. No,
right? Because you're probably not old enough to be in that stage of life.
There you go. But the pocket monsters, they do evolve. And that's really what we should be looking at this point, right? Is like in your middle age, when you're going through perimenopause, it's not about like what we're losing or what's wrong with us. It's about like, what are we going to get better at because of this change? And one thing that we are going to get better at is editing. You're going to be a much better self-editor through this process. Absolutely. And who doesn't look at their calendar right now and be like, dear goodness gracious. And this middle age can really help you become the best self-editor.
Absolutely. It really can. And I think if anything, what I want listeners to learn from just my brief description of what I have gone through is that you are not problematic. Mm-hmm. You simply aren't. And your body is just not in the same place as it was before. And we have to respond. We have to treat it differently. It's no different than a child moving from infancy to toddlerhood. Like there's an evolution that takes place there. And for whatever reason, we always celebrate those evolutions up until midlife. And then somehow it's labeled as a de-evolution, or like I said, a biologically irrelevant period of life, which is like I don't know who coined that term, but I don't like them.
No.
And I would not invite them on this show.
Absolutely not.
It's just rude. And it's so inaccurate too. And so realizing that like, it's not your fault and it is okay to say, I don't feel well and I deserve to feel better, and finding ways to make that happen. And if your primary care provider is not assisting you with that evolution and with mitigating whatever concerns you have, then it is time to move on. It is time to say, well, thanks for your time, but I'm going to move on to someone else. Again, get clear on what you're willing to tolerate.
How many doctors did you have to meet with on this journey?
5.
There you go.
And it's not just limited to like doctors. And I think this is an important piece for us to discuss in a future episode too, is like sometimes the industry itself can be its own worst enemy. I'm a firm believer that every coach needs a coach. Like if I was at a point where I was building my business, I would hire Jess to help me go from, what is your tagline?
Overwhelmed to organized.
Like I would hire Jess. Yes, we're both health and fitness professionals, but we have a different set of experiences. I firmly believe that if you're a personal trainer and you want to not write your own programs, hire another personal trainer. Every coach needs a coach. It helps you get over your blind spots and all of, the things that are in your own way, just like a coach would do for a client, right? We help them get out of their own way and reveal to them their own power and their own strength and their own capabilities. The same can be said for colleagues coaching colleagues. But I also sought help within our space from other professionals. And what was amazing to me is it ran the gamut from, you just need to eat about 1,300 calories. And I'm like, I'm not 2. So no, I don't. And I'm not gonna. Again, I was very clear on what I wasn't going to tolerate. And it ran the gamut from that to simply like, oh, well, over here, let's run a Dutch test and HTMA and full CMP. And it's $8,000 for 6 months of coaching. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? That is not accessible. So it ran the gamut of not just the Western medicine, functional medicine, naturopathic, but also like within the space, which can be really frustrating.
So frustrating.
So frustrating.
Erin, what are you over? What are you over? What are you done with?
I am over when providers, be them functional, Western, in our own industry. I am over when providers don't take you seriously and that they try to tell you how you feel, or they write it off as, well, you're in your 40s. First of all, I'm well aware of what my driver's license says. Thank you. I don't need you to bookend that for me, but I'm really over, I guess the best way to say it is those outside voices minimizing your journey and gaslighting you. I'm really over that.
I love that one so much because I think we hit it in all areas of our life, right?
Yeah.
You headbutt against that.
Mhm.
I am so over people thinking that telling you what you should do is the only solution that there is available. We live in this social media world where it's you should drink apple cider vinegar in the morning with lemon in order to flush your system out. I mean, all of these like shoulds and shoulds and shoulds. And instead of like taking the time to actually figure out your own system, your own body, we kind of turn to people and then people should all over us. And so I think there's just such a better way to where we can kind of close the noise out a little bit more and have more open dialogue and conversations in ways that make meaningful journeys kind of moving forward. So I'm done with people shitting on me.
I love that. Don't shit on each other, people.
No, be done with it.
I love it.
That's been Flustered for today, everybody. All right. We'll see you on our next episode.
All right. Thanks for listening.